Well, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Not quite the stroke at 10 o'clock. This is woodturners coffee hour number 68, I'm quite sure. We've been on an every other week schedule. Let me see, we got 3 guys in the room today, and I'll show you them in a minute. Well, I'll show you them right now. There they are. And I can even, just for the sake of fairness, spotlight that for everybody. There you see them.
Yep.
And then I remove the spotlight and I go back to gallery view. Whoever thought a year and a half ago, we were arguing about whether we wanted to have a big TV or a projector so we could project slides. And we knew Zoom existed, and that was about it. The club's video equipment was all in mothballs. We didn't have anything going. So, you know, here we are now. We've been doing this a year and a half, 67 coffee hours, and probably 20 club meetings, all on Zoom, all live, and all this kind of hybrid setup. It's pretty interesting. It's like I want to get my camera back. Come on back. There you go. Yeah. And we've been on summer hours of doing this every 2 weeks. And now we're back to, come on, I got to get that camera to switch. Thing is reluctant today. There it is. And I bet it switches back again because I hit it twice. Okay. So you can see me, right, in gallery view or speaker view, whatever it is you're using.
Yep, we got you.
Okay. I see 1519 on screen. And like I say, 3 in the room. So when this thing was running at its peak, we were regularly attracting 30, 35 people. And at its lowest, we had 12 or 13. And right now we're running in the mid 20s someplace. We're around 20, low 20s. Plus we get anywhere from 40 to 120 views for the videos, which I post. You guys all get a notice of them. And then if it's something interesting, I put a notice on the AAW Forum to encourage those guys to look in on our videos. And every so often that brings in a new member or somebody else who's interested in what we're doing. And so that's all kind of fun. Now we're coming up to the fall, and the question is, do we need to continue this? Do we want to go back to every week? Should we stay every other week? Should we do it once a month? And before the club executive feels that having coffee hour helps the club in general, as well as helping as being a service to the members who attend and who watch the videos. And I agree with that. It's fun for me to be the moderator and to hold this thing together. And I found on the summer schedule, I found a peculiar thing. I found it was actually more difficult to maintain an every other week schedule than a weekly schedule. When it's weekly, it becomes part of my routine. When it's every other week, I forget what do I do next? When do I have to do this? What do I have to do? Because there's, you know, on Tuesday or Wednesday, I got to send out the notice. Then after the meeting, I got to clean up the video and post that. And then I got to deal with requests and stuff from people. So there's a bit of maintenance that goes on with this. And I see more people clicking in. So as you guys click in, I just want you to understand that I'm talking to you about what are we going to do here going forward. And without asking anybody else to make the decision or anything, I wanted to poll you lot and see what you thought we should do. First of all, I'm going to assume, because you're here, that you're enjoying coffee hour enough to carry on. And I see that most of you guys are regulars. They're the same guys I see every week. Am I right about that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
Well, what do you think about every other week? How have you enjoyed the summer every other week schedule?
It's a good summer schedule. You know, it gives you a break but I like it every week though too. So.
Okay. Anybody else on that? Every week or every other week? What do you think?
I like it every week.
Every week is good.
Yeah.
John, I really enjoy every week. However, I know the amount of work that it takes to put this program on, and you need help.
Oh, I have help. It's not a question of help. The main help that we need is, in which we've had tremendous, is participation from you lot. There are times in the past where I felt obliged to come up with programming so I could entertain the screen for the hour. I've kind of stopped doing that. If I have something, I show it, and if I don't, I rely on you guys. And we've gone to this little interview format. We had Jim Duxbury 2 weeks ago, and we've had Josh Friend, and we've had David Ellsworth. And I'm finding that the work for me, or the nerve-wracking part for me, is what if nobody shows up, and what if nobody has anything to show? So I count on you guys to bring your projects and be willing to show off your videos and show your pictures and hold work up by your ear. And I guess that goes with, if you'd like it every week, I'm willing to continue on every week, but it also puts the onus on you to be willing to share what you're up to in the shop. And if you're not up to anything in the shop, share what you used to be up to in the shop. And if you can't even remember what that was, share what you'd like to do in the future in the shop. It's all interesting to us. We've had some good times looking at tools. What are these and how do they work? We've had some good times looking at work that people hold up. We've looked at old work. We've looked at new work. It all kind of works out, but it absolutely relies on member participation, which we've had. As I say, I'm enormously grateful for the high level of participation that we've enjoyed here. So I heard a little murmuring a few minutes ago when I asked about every week, every other week. The general feeling of you guys on screen is you'd like to go back to every week. Am I right about that?
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not going to go back to every other week next week because I'm going to go to the beach. But after that, we will. So we'll be on in 2 weeks. And then after that 2 weeks, we'll be on every other week, I think. I'm going to put the same question out to the list of people who don't necessarily attend here, but who watch the videos. I think we have a fair contingent of members who like to watch the coffee hour, would participate if they weren't at work. If they're at work, they can't participate. But they do watch the videos, and I do hear from them. And I know also if I fail to post a video, that's especially when I hear from them. Where's the video? What's up? So that tells me that along with the total views and the stats I can get from YouTube, that tells me that there's actual interest out there in the whole question. Roy's picking up the stick to talk. I got to turn on the other mic. Go for it, Roy.
Well, I think that every week is a good thing. And I think because of all you do, we should double your salary.
Oh, I appreciate that, Roy. I'll take it. Remind me to stop at the bank on the way home. I want to emphasize that I do this because it's, I started doing this because it was fun for me. I continue to do it because it's fun for me. And I also, frankly, I appreciate the support and enthusiasm that I get from you lot. So it's all of a piece. Alan Miller had his hand up. You still got your hand up, Alan?
Well, I don't still have my hand up, but I'll go ahead and just for clarity, I thought I heard you saying we were going back to every other week when I think you meant every week.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to every week, but in 2 weeks. Not next
Gotcha.
week, but after that, we'll be on an every week schedule.
Right.
With the proviso that every once in a while, I'm just not going to be able to make it. And if Doug is available, or Ernie's available, or Roy, or somebody else who can figure out how to turn all this junk on is available, then it can go on whether I'm here or not. And I like that too. That's part of it. I guess I should say, if anybody among you out there want to get in on the management of this thing, drop me an email. We'll figure out a role. There's always pieces of the work that can be hived off to other people who are willing to do it. The key, of course, is you got to do it. One thing I know from my career in publishing, if you get behind on your deadlines, you can't catch up incrementally. It's very, very difficult. You have to stay on top of it. It's the only way. Which means for me, if I don't get when we're on an every week schedule, if I don't get the video posted by Sunday, I'm in trouble. So it's like that. And that's the area where I would take help is in processing the videos. That's the chore every week that I understand that somebody needs to do without fail. We've got another guy doing it. Dave Shell is doing it for the club meetings. So that was a real burden that I was delighted to have lifted. And that's the next thing I'd like to shed off of here. I want to say as well as about all the participation we've had is the club guys have stepped up in every way we've asked them. Ben has built a Skookum tool cabinet that goes with the lathe here. Barry built a magnificent stand for the big TV here. The room gets cleaned up and picked up every time we use it for one thing or another. We've got a facility, a building here. We talk about being able to use this for Saturday morning teaching for local kids and for beginner members who'd like some instruction. Yeah, it's all very interesting, and the commitment is there to slowly get there. What we don't have in here is a great lathe. We got a jet. It's not a bad jet, but we used to have access to a Sweet 16, and that was a honey. You could do anything on that. And the club doesn't have $6 to buy one. So, but maybe in a little bit we'll go on a fund drive and see where we get with that too. That's also been talked about. Our equipment needs here are pretty much met. I think there'll be a small added budget request in next year after dues are in to augment our equipment a little bit, but we're pretty much set here. The club owns 2 cameras and there's a third being donated. We got an A10 mini we're using now, which is a mixed blessing. It simplifies some things and complexifies others. I personally feel I was right in the first place to stay with Zoom and not add on any of this junk. But now that we have added it on, it's useful. It takes less skill to operate, but it takes more understanding of how the different things interact. And there's now 3 ways to switch cameras instead of 2. It all gets out of hand fast if you let it. And we've tried hard to keep it in hand so that everybody can run this thing or several members can run it and we don't get in over our heads. Having said all that, before I go around the room and look for shows and tells, anybody got any comments you want to make?
Yeah. John?
Go for it.
You talk about trying to set up, having a program or a plan for the meeting or whatever, but you think back to how many times we had you had a list of people that had show and tell, and we didn't have time to get to it. There's so much going on.
That's true.
They're just, everybody's got interest in inputting the stuff. So I find a lot out of it. I get quite a bit out of it and I enjoy it. So I think, I think the people on the screen can keep the interest there for everybody else.
I think you're actually right about that, Ron. I have found every time I put the question out to the rooms, oh, what do you got? Somebody's got something. We always have enough stuff to keep us entertained.
We're not depending on you to put a program together. There's stuff out there for people to contribute.
I agree with you. And I guess what I really mean to be doing is thanking you guys for contributing all this past year and encouraging you to keep on contributing, because that's what's going to make this work.
Well, thanks for keeping it operating. That's the other part of it.
Yeah.
Like I say, that's been the fun part for me. I do get concerned sometimes about the level. I mean, this is turned into a very advanced group. And I want to make sure that the beginners don't feel left behind either.
John,
yeah.
Doug here. One of the things about the hosting this and the coffee hour is that unlike our club meetings, this really doesn't have to be done remote at the club meeting place if you want to host it. So I know you guys got 3 there and you're doing your thing with all the different cameras, John, but it can be hosted from anywhere by anybody as far as the coffee hour is concerned, really.
That's true. That's true. And the reason I keep coming out, frankly, is every time I come out here, I try some new equipment or some new combo of equipment or some new speakers or some new microphone to try it. So I'm always working on the setup. And since it's a 20-minute drive from my house, I don't just pop over for a minute. It's a trip. So I come out here for coffee hour and I stick around for an hour and I fool around with the gear. But this morning was a good example. I would rather have stayed home and worked it out in my living room, but I knew other guys were coming. So I guess we have to let you know whether we're going to be here and open the room or whether we're not going to be here. Or else somebody else who does show up here has to know where all the buttons and switches are. And that means I got to write them at least a cheat sheet that says turn this on and turn that on, which I think is probably not going to be too hard to do, to tell you the truth.
Well, if you want me to run it from the club meeting next Tuesday from there, I would appreciate a cheat sheet. I know most of the buttons, but I know most of the buttons, but I don't know the passwords. But anyway, we'll talk about that offline. Yeah,
and Matt will be here too. Matt sat in with me last time, so he knows where the buttons are too, or is beginning to know. that's my goal, is to get more and more people comfortable running a camera, running the buttons, punching, you know, knowing how to switch all this stuff on like that. Anybody else?
Yeah, John, this is Bob. You mentioned about novices. Although I've been turning for several years, I feel compared to what I've seen all the other folks in the group present, I'm a relative novice, and I get a great deal from the presentations that are made, even how, I don't know, when they make mistakes, pointing out what they've done and not being embarrassed or whatever, but sharing what they've learned from it. I've gained a great deal. So I don't think you're letting us, at least I think myself a novice, I don't think you're letting us down here. It's a great program.
Thank you for that.
Don, I would question the recording. I know that's a lot of work. Do we have a counter on that? Does anybody use it?
Oh yeah,
I love it. I've been on there many times. I just wondered how many use it for the amount of work that goes into it.
we typically get 60 views, and sometimes as many as 120. I think the most views we had was 139 on something.
Wow, terrific. Okay.
Yeah, and I look at the stats. Half of those click in for a minute, look at a bit of it, or hop around, and half of them watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I know a lot of times I can't make the actual meeting because of another conflict, and so I always look forward to the recording.
You watch the whole thing? You watch the whole thing, Jeff?
Yes, I do.
Good to hear. I use it like when I gave my spiel that I learned from that. I kicked myself all the next week, but anyway.
You were great, Jim. You were fabulous.
No, I see so many things I want to do or should have done, and anyway.
Well, we could all kill ourselves for that. You know, my Japanese craftsman friend said that every mistake he makes is a visible reproach that he carries to his grave.
Very true.
John, I'd say that 50% is kind of consistent with what I typically get on my YouTube videos, that you have a pretty good sized drop off in about the first minute or so, and then a lot of people will watch through the end.
Yeah. One thing I've been disappointed about is the lack of interest from the AAW Forum. Whenever we have an interview or a really good technical thing, I post it on the AAW Forum, and we might get 400 reads on the message and 40 views. And I guess here we're giving you an opportunity to actually see something interesting and new, but they don't want it. So there you are. But it's everybody's choice how they spend their time, of course.
I'd say 10% is probably not a bad participation rate.
You're probably right. Yeah. Think of what we used to get on direct mail. 2% was good.
Yeah.
Also, there's so much stuff on there. You know, that you get to the AAW, my God, you could spend full time just going through each one of those.
Yes, you could.
You just have to limit it to something, I guess.
So anybody else on all this? Okay, I'm going to go next to ask. Oh, Kai's got his hand up. Go for it, Kai.
Yeah, just a quick remark. In Germany, we have a similar schedule for our club now. So we have weekly meetings on Wednesdays just for 1 hour, which were initially meant to teach the people how to use Zoom, but which are meetings of their own now. And we have a monthly meeting that we also hold on Zoom. And people said they wanted to keep the weekly, shorter weekly meetings as well, because they are good for two purposes. Sometimes during the weekly meetings, ideas come up that we can use in club meetings. So it helps us to get topics for club meetings, which are only once a month. And then sometimes even with 2 hours, we run out of time during the club meetings to do everything or discuss everything we want to discuss. So we just do it the next Wednesday in our shorter weekly meeting. So this is a good system because the weekly meetings help the club meetings, and sometimes the other way around as well. We get topics for the weekly meetings from the club meeting because we didn't have enough time to discuss everything during club meetings. So it's a good idea to have that combination of, in your case, morning coffee hour and club meetings, I think, and to have them weekly as well. We had the same drop in participants, sorry, during the summer, but I guess one reason is at the moment in Germany, Corona isn't that bad. It's getting worse again, but at the moment or a few weeks ago, it was better. So people went out more. And the other thing is it's warmer outside. So people maybe enjoy the evening outside in their garden or something like this and don't attend our club meetings. So that might be a reason. And I guess the number of participants will go up during the next weeks again towards winter. So or fall and winter. So I think that's that will happen in the States as well.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And you know, you came in on this very early, Kai, from our first notice we got in the AAW Journal, and it's been fun watching you guys fumble your way through it along with us. Anybody else? Okay, then I'm going to put out the call for who's got show and tell. I know that Ron has some. I know that Ernie has some. I know that Kai has something. I know that Baltimore area Turners over there has something. Jeff Carroll, Bob Mathers. I think Jeff Stolman has something. Okay, we got a full list here. Let me start going around the screen. I'm going to start. Ron got his oar in yesterday with an email to me, which I appreciate. So I'm going to go to Ron first. What do you got, Ron?
Well, at the club meeting last month, a new member, and I didn't get his name, he showed a fluted bowl that he turned. And that intrigued me.
Hold it.
So he didn't explain how he did it. So I thought, I got to think this out a little bit. And this is what I came up with.
That's fantastic.
Very nice.
Fully turned on the lathe. And I did two of them. This is a spalted beech on this one, about 6 inches in diameter, about 4 inches deep. This one's a little bit bigger. This is a red elm, I believe it is. It's pretty soft, and had the bottom was pretty well cracked around the center of the log. So I cut the bottom out and put in a purpleheart bottom on it. But it took me a while to figure out how he did it. But I think I've got something figured out here on it anyway.
Well, I was going to invite that guy to come and show us one time or come to a club meeting. So let's.
I think
now that you got it figured out, we got two guys who could show us that one. That's a hell of a good trick.
Well, yeah. How did you do it? How did you do it, Ron?
John?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he said he just joined up or something. So yeah, we need.
Yeah, he's a club member. Yes, he's a member of our club.
But I can explain how I did mine.
Go ahead. You're not going to explain, or you want to?
No, well, we can do it now. Yeah. What I don't know. I think he said he did it with a log. Basically, you have I start with a log. I turn the cylinder, and then you mark a line around, and I put a piece of masking tape around that perimeter and stretched it out on a flat table and marked it off in even increments. And so then you mark off all your flutes, and then you turn around and turn it on centers this way. And as you're turning, you turn this fluted surface all the way down, all the way around the whole cylinder, basically making a ball. And then you turn it, and then you index it around. Just keep indexing it to each of the flutes as you go.
Well, don't you have to have multiple centers to clean up? What happens with that?
Yeah, so then you end up with a cylinder that's got all these flutes on it. And what I did was I took the hand clamp, a pair of hand clamps, and put this on a sled on a bandsaw and bandsawed it apart. And then, well, I guess
Yeah, the
what I
waist-
had before
Waist
that,
section in the middle, don't you?
flattened the bottom and made a place where I could put my centers in. Then I bandsawed it off. And so now I've got this in the chuck and I'm hollowing inside out. That's how I did them.
Well, I'm going to get the other guy to show us, and we'll probably get a video together in the next few months. I think that's a great technique, and I'd love to actually see it done.
And if you look at this one, well, I had a spur center in here and this live center on the other side. Well, the spur center on this soft wood had drilled itself in. So that ends up at the center when you cut it apart. So either I could have turned this down and made a much shallower bowl, but what I'm going to do end up is I'll round that off and make a little thumb hole for picking it up. I learned at work when I worked for the guys is you can't fix it, feature it. So we're going to have a thumb hole in there.
Ron, I was intrigued with that that presentation last meeting also, and I didn't turn one, but I figured out how to do it. But he indicated that he could turn odd numbers of flutes, and I couldn't figure out how to do the odd numbers.
I think he said 9. He had 9 flutes on there, and I got to thinking, but there's no way you can do odd numbers.
That's what I couldn't come up with an odd number. No.
Well, you turn this one on the top, on the opposite side, there's going to be another one. So that's 2.
You can do an odd number, Ron. You just have to do it off center turning on your first turning, so you only turn one side.
Oh, yeah, well.
I'm going to get
I'm just making a comment that you can do it if you turn it off center.
I'm going to get the dude who showed us this to come and show us what he knows, and then we'll pick this up again at that point. I'm going to move on from that right now.
Yeah.
Unless you got another piece, Ron. Are you good?
No, I'm just saying it's fun to do things
Okay.
that you wonder, how did he do that? And then you figure it out and do it.
Well, that's absolutely the fun of turning. I see some hands up of guys who want to show, but I know there's one guy over here, Jeff Stolman, who wanted to show something that he'd been. Are you ready, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Jeff is new here, and he's actually been. He started working in my shop, and he was taking instruction, and now he just comes and uses my shop on some Saturdays. So, and in exchange, he sweeps up and gets the chips out. So it's a good deal for us both. What do you got, Jeff?
Well, what I want to show is really more something of question, and I'm not sure if the lighting's even good. Maybe an additional light will help.
Hold it up a little higher. There you go.
I made a bunch of plates, and the walnut that I used happened to have all these insect lines, and so I tried filling them with super glue, and I kind of made one coat, but it kind of spread all over the place. And I was then gonna do another layer of super glue with some, walnut sawdust in it to make it look a little better. But then I got to thinking, because the super glue is so messy, that maybe I would just finish the bottom with super glue and finish I was going to use water locks really for the whole plate, but maybe I'll just use super glue on the bottom. But I'm trying to figure out how best to get rid of those. And some of them, I don't know, again, if you can really see it, but they're on the front side as well, because they went. And so that's going to be causing me a problem. And I'm looking for suggestions on how I might try to fill those.
Well, my first suggestion is get another piece of walnut and make another plate.
The other suggestion is don't fill them. Leave them as it is. It's a decorative plate. Just leave them open.
I think he wants to eat off the plates.
Well, get another piece of wood.
Get another piece of wood.
I take the super glue and use a little bit of copper powder or something and mix it into the super glue, so that when you put it into the holes, you actually fill the hole completely, and then take it and turn it. So you fill the holes individually to start with right. Some sort of highlight, and you can use some sort of any sort of epoxy powder, colored powder as well if you want to. But it really looks quite cool if you do that, and it actually I did that on a piece of maple. I was really pleased with the result.
So in other words, your move is to accentuate the wormholes, not try and fill them and
Yes.
hide them.
I don't try to hide them at all. No.
No.
There's,
What I've done is used regular tight bond and put tight bond in the holes and then rub sawdust, walnut the sawdust or whatever shavings over it. And I like that better than the super glue.
I had a class with Jimmy Clues on box making, and he used really fine brass powder that it's available from Craft Supply, but it was really fine. And in our case, we did a rim around the top of the box, and you pack the powder in there, and then you dribble thin CA on top of it, and then you turn it away as Doug suggested, and it really looked like a brass ring, but I think brass powder would look very nice, completely filling the holes.
along that same lines, what I did is I went to the local hardware store at the key cutting area, and I got the grinds that came off the and that works kind of nice. It looks kind of brassy when it comes out, but it's not too bad.
Very cool.
If you don't want to fix it up and just go what you have, I saw a couple of videos. I believe it's from Japan, and there's two trains of thought over there. One is called, and my pronunciation is probably off, but it's called wari sabi, which is the celebration of broken objects. Well, it's not broken, but it is somewhat damaged. And the other one is called kintsugi, which is the beauty of imperfection, which when I show you my stuff, you'll see that that may be the theme of my work here. But I've done a lot of stuff I give away to relatives, and the imperfections really look pretty cool. And like there's one fellow in the group, and I haven't seen him in a while, but he did some demos some time back, and he takes pieces of wood that are really gnarly looking and turns them into just beautiful objects with holes all through them. And I've done several of those. So one thing is just to leave it alone and accept it as it is. And I think a lot of people appreciate that touch. It's just the natural wood coming out, and you take what's there. I think Doug was saying some time ago that when you turn the wood, it's what presents itself, and you just work with what's there. I know a lot of you guys get a lot of that exotic wood. I've just been using up cherry and ash that we took down in my yard several years ago, and I just take what it is. And in the beginning, like I said, I'm a relative novice. The way I cut the wood initially was not the way it should have been done. But when I turned it, the shapes of the bowls come out rather odd, but they're cool looking. So you just go with what you have. I think you might find that people like it.
Thanks.
Okay. I see a whole bunch of hands up here. Bruce Lamb was next. What do you got, Bruce?
I have some resin slides that I've kind of spent the summer playing with resin. So let's see, we share. Are you full size now?
Yeah, we're seeing you.
Okay. I had this maple burl cookie, and I was trying to decide what to do with it. And it's mostly end grain, but it's not really end grain because it is a cookie. And if you can see the lines, I'm not sure how well it shows up, but I had inscribed a circle here to make a platter out of it. It's about 2 inches deep. And then I decided to kind of take a wave out of the middle to fill with resin, which is what these lines are in the middle. And it was dry, but I couldn't help myself to take the pith out, which is just a habit that I think we all get into, and it's probably a good habit. So I put it into a mold like this, and I think I mentioned once before, this is a method from Keith Lackner's book where he takes these concrete forms and uses them as a mold, and they work really well. They have, in most cases, some kind of film on the inside, which is polyethylene, I think, and it holds the resin pretty well. You should inspect it if you do this, because if you have a cut or a tear in the film on the inside, the form will leak. And then there's MDF glued into the bottom of this thing, and the parts are hot melt glued down. I like to leave an edge around the piece so that the epoxy can get completely encased in this. It may be hard to see in this, but there were a number of cracks that go all through the wood piece, and by completely inundating it with epoxy, it automatically fills all your holes and voids, in addition to putting in the form as you want. So I poured 2 colors, basically a red and a gold, as you can see, and I like to go over the top of the piece entirely, so again it sinks into any gaps and pieces. It also self-levels. What's interesting to me here is I kind of poured the red and the gold at the same time. Most of the red went into the piece here, and I try not to mix them too much, but we'll see what it is. This is a very slow curing epoxy. It cures over 2 to 3 days. So slow that you really don't have to put it in a pressure pot, and seems to work just fine without that. So this is the outer mold now being removed. It's cured. You can still see the MDF is on the bottom, and then it goes on the lathe like this. And usually I construct this so that there's wood underneath the center, so I can put a screw into the center and turn off the MDF, which is on the bottom and is glued to it. So there's really no simple way to get it off. So here's on the lathe, and now the MDF has been removed, and what you see is the gap which I cut out. You see these other spots on here, which is probably where the hot melt glue was. It just didn't let the resin penetrate as much into the wood, but it doesn't seem to really make it a problem for you because it goes around so many different ways. And then once you polish this up, it gets kind of interesting. So here is the bottom of the bowl. Pretty much ready to go, and wound up with a product like this, which this one I was pretty excited by. It came out really nice, and the burl had really nice character to it, and I was able to get the gold to be fairly transparent at the ends as well. This is not backlit at all. If you backlight it, you see a lot more penetration of the resin. And I do use a combination of transparent dyes and a mica powder to get that kind of effect.
Bruce, what do you think is going to happen with wood movement over time? Do you think it's going to stay tight the way it is, or is it going to change?
I guess time will tell. This is my experimental phase here, but the piece was very dry. So I'm not sure we're going to get much movement. You know, I think if you take it out and it gets wet, things will change. And then I, of course, oil finished it. If I just go back, you can also see these were the cracks that the resin filled into as well, quite well. You can see them here and here, but I don't know. That is one thing that I worry about. And this one other piece I'm going to show you, I'm even more worried about it, but I think it's a question. I don't think we'll get a lot of movement. Obviously, the epoxy is not going to move. This was done exactly the same way with a blue and a pearl white. But I wanted to see in this case what would happen if I left the rim entirely resin. And so here is the same kind of effect. You can see there's a bunch of holes that have been filled in. I did go back and finish the center of this, but I didn't take a picture of that. This one is a much deeper bowl. I think I got about 2.5 inches. And as I said, I tried to leave the rim all resin. So if there's anything that has stresses or concerns, you have all this hoop stress here. We'll see what happens to this one. But it came out all right. I don't like this effect near as much as I like the other one, but it'll kind of test what wood movement really could do.
What's the diameter of that?
Both of them are about 12 inches in diameter.
Amazing. Anybody? Questions for Bruce?
Very nice.
Very nice. Okay, Dave Delo, what do you got?
Hey, I got this bowl on the lathe right now that you can see. It's about 14 inches that I've stained with the chestnut spirit stain. And I'm going to try my hand at sandblasting. So I've ordered up everything that Al Hockenberry suggests through his SWAT demonstration about the resist material and the blast material. And since I've never done this before, I just wanted to see if anybody had any suggestions or pointers about, blasting pieces, things to look out for, things to do, not to do, and or anything. Does anybody have any pointers that they would, if you've done this before, let me know.
You say you're going to use a resist. Are you going to put a pattern?
Yeah, I'm thinking about putting, since this is a blue, I'm thinking about making a dolphin, okay, that'll cover most of the inside of this bowl, okay? And then leave that there and then blast away everything else, and then around the rim and then the outside. I have no idea what it's going to look like. If it's got, this is sycamore, so it's a lighter color. So I'm kind of suspecting I'm going to have a light bluish tint with whiteness in it as the surrounding area, and then a solid blue dolphin or turtle, whatever I decide to make to fill in this.
You can make patterns pretty easily that you can use over again by cutting them from thin inner tubing material.
Yeah.
That, if you wanted to put like 3 dolphins around. And Harbor Freight also sells both blasting guns. You can buy this one for like $20, and they sell the media too.
I see they have the media. It's, what was it? It was $10 for, I think it's a 5-pound bag. Okay. Yeah. And I wasn't sure. I got from Zorro, I think it is, a bigger tub of it. I think that was going to be a little bit cheaper, but yes, Ernie, I looked into that.
It also says to never use the media twice, and I do it in a cardboard box and pour it back in the gun and pretty handily too.
Okay. How much of it do you really use, or how much? I have one of those little cabinet things, like Harbor Freight sells, only it's a Job Smart one. Same thing. I think it came from Northern Tool. But anyway, how much do you put in the cabinet to begin with?
Well, it's you go through it pretty good. The big thing I found is you tend to underestimate how coarse you need the media. That usually you need it more aggressive than you think you do.
I have the 2540. I don't know what it is. It's a 50-pound pail or something like that coming.
Yeah, you'll get there.
And could I just throw a comment in? You said about not using media twice, but I think wood is one of the softer things you're going to use a blaster on, isn't it, Ernie? So it really doesn't break down the media the way you might do it if you're using it on steel or another metal part.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a bunch of different. There's even walnut shells you can get that for like cleaning up things. But it won't do much to wood. But you get the glass beads, and I've tried them, and they'll make a matte finish, but they won't really attack it. You really need to go to carborundum powder to get to where you really make a etching in the wood.
Yeah.
Okay.
That help you out?
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
All right, Larry, you're on. You're muted, buddy.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So at our last Lancaster meeting, a new member, and I don't know his name, it might have been the same guy who did the fluted bowls, had done a fruit bowl. I had done a fruit bowl before where I was just using a drill and had small holes, and I always felt it didn't give enough air circulation. So this seemed like a pretty good idea. I still need to do some finishing. And it's basically using these like hole saws. These are like Milwaukee hole saw bits in different sizes. And So it was just kind of interesting. I did find that even though I've got pretty good bits, some of the holes I drilled came out real nice and smooth with well-defined edges, and some of them came out pretty choppy. So I guess it's really something with my technique. It's the first time I've ever tried using those hole bits. It's not that I need better bits, but I think it's going to be pretty usable once I'm finished putting the finish on. And I think if I were doing it again, I'd probably be a little more careful with drilling the holes and maybe have some more holes. But I think it's a good way if you want something that is just going to air out from a utility standpoint.
Larry, question, was the bowl hollowed out when you drilled, or did you drill when it was solid?
I put it on a drill bit. You know, I have this arbor.
No, but I mean, was the inside of the bowl hollowed out?
No, I finished turning the outside, I drilled the holes, and then I finished turning the inside.
Okay.
You know, I'd left maybe an extra 1/4 inch or 3/8, ½ inch or so of wood on the inside, and then I turned that away. But the clean cut holes were clean both inside and outside, and the rough ones were rough both inside and outside. So there's something with my hole drilling technique that needs a little work, but it's coming along. Okay.
Pretty interesting.
Any comments, any other comments for Larry?
Hole saws are not the most accurate way of drilling a hole. You might want to try a hole cutter. It has a center bit, and then it has a carbide sharpening. You might want to try that, see if you can get the, probably the smaller holes are the worst ones, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you might want to try, it's a hole cutter. It's got a long arm and it's got a piece of carbide on it.
So not this.
That's a fly cutter is what I would call that.
Yeah, it's a fly cutter. Yep.
Yeah.
A fly cutter, exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Got a single carbide bit and then it goes around the center, yeah.
Randy Smith.
I'll try that. Thanks.
Okay, I'm working on making, working on making some Freedom pens. And let's see, boom. Share. This is just when I'm making batches of pens, I put this little thing on my lathe so that I can scuff the pens up, the blanks. When I'm doing 20 or 30 tubes at a time, this makes it go a lot faster.
Great idea.
Come on. Okay. This is one of the pens I made. This is, they're all slim lines. And I don't put a center band on it. Just me. This is a faux European or Mont Blanc style. Again, this is a slim line. And the only difference between this and a slim line is I drilled out the cap a little bit, about 1/8 of an inch deep, and made the blank about 1/8 of an inch longer. And this is the first batch of 20 pens that I made of all the different styles. And I'm working on the second 20 as we speak. So I have my work cut out for me.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to stop going around the screen for a second because there's some terrific work in the room. Whose purple plate is that?
Mine. It's basically it's a tragedy I wanted to explain.
Okay, well, let me get the camera on you. Okay. And I'm going to spotlight you. And now you're not actually in the field of view of the camera is the trouble. There you go.
This last coffee hour, I've had two I guess I'll call them spectacular failures. One is simply, this was my first attempt at hollowing. And after I finished it, I wasn't happy with the profile. And so I'm trying to clean up the profile, and I put painter's tape on top and then hot glued a chuck to it. And everything was going fine until I got a catch. Trimming off the bottom, and as you can see, it very nice 8 to 3/16 thick wood, which didn't rise to the occasion on holding it when I snagged it. Okay, I've got a supply of purpleheart. Unfortunately, it's all only 1 inch thick. So I think about projects I could make. I turned this platter and put a pie crust edge to it. And that was going well. And then if you direct your attention down here, you can see it did not go so well. The front side was great. And then when this is how it starts off life as a rough thing. Now with the white background here, you can see in a couple of places where I went through and didn't know about it because I had tape all over this space when I was doing the backside. And so the wood didn't fall out and let me get too dangerously thin. When I took the tape off, a lot of wood came off with it. So I'm going to do it again with a different piece of wood and try and control my thickness more. We're making those floats just to finish up here. I don't know how many of you have one of these box tool rests, but it's really great for. I made this little plywood with the Formica face fixture. Slide the support post in there, tighten down the 4 bolts, and then mount it on the lathe, and you can adjust it so that whatever tool you're using, whether you're drawing lines like Larry when he makes his which you all will see in next Tuesday's demonstration, I think. I'm sorry, in a month. Larry Sherman's going to be showing a basket illusion bowl. And one of the things you have to do is draw lines by using your indexing head on your lathe. And you draw lines across the surface of the bowl that you can then do wood burning on to create part of the basket illusion. This I just used to set a laminate trimmer that I had mounted a foot on the laminate trimmer. And so you can move your laminate trimmer along here. And in the case of that purpleheart bowl, every 10 degrees, I just re-indexed it, cut another trough, 10 more degrees, another trough, and so on. So we got 36 troughs going around on this thing. And then you just hand sand out the grinder marks. The grinder I'm using a Fordham flex shaft tool with a 1/4 inch chuck. And I have some of these cuts all 1 inch structured carbide balls running at about maybe 1,000 RPM, 1,200 RPM. And they do a good job on taking out a lot of wood in a hurry. That's my 2 disasters.
I'm sorry about the sound. Did everybody get enough of that to understand what he's talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was good.
We'll do more work on the sound system here.
What's the finish like on that? With that burr or that ball? Do you have to do much sanding?
Yeah, in fact, on on the face side, the good side, if you will, the first side I did, there's probably 5 hours of sanding in that. I'm sure that would come down a lot if it was not purpleheart. If it was something like walnut or maple, this purpleheart does not, those of you who have worked it, it turns fine. It turns as good as any wood, I think. But as soon as you try to get down to your finish work, whether you're using any kind of abrasive tool, there's no magic quick cut solution. I don't think it. A lot of hand sanding. I'd say 4 hours went into it. It's not a marketable item.
That's for sure. Okay, we got a couple more guys with hands up. Jeff Carroll, what do you got?
Couple of bowls. This ambrosia maple, just a small salad bowl.
Nice. What's the finish, Jeff?
General bowl finish.
Ooh,
got
nice.
a live edge. Spalted maple.
Same finish?
Yes.
All right.
That's it.
No questions, comments for Jeff?
Very nice.
Yeah.
Live edge is amazing.
That's a nice piece. One last guy with his hand up here, and that would be Duxbury. You got a motorized ball game here, don't you?
Yes.
You want to run it?
Yes. Last time I was on, somebody said, could you show those balls? Let me get it in focus here.
You're good.
That's a standard set of balls. They turn like that. You can tell if they're exactly right. These are wooden balls, so it changes. If they back up when they're done, that means something's a little bit out of round. So there's, the weather changed, okay? This center part drives. I was told, I can't believe you didn't make yours motorized. So the inertia now is starting these balls. They're going that way. They go clockwise. Once the inertia of the ball catches up and it starts to ride on the static part of this outside, it'll go the other way around. Anyway, wood turners do have fun.
I'll be damned.
Anyway, I don't know if we'll do it again, but
Jim, you're talking about reversing direction. That reminds me, I don't know if any of you remember, I did that tippy top that I did last month.
Oh yeah.
When you spin that, and I'm spinning it clockwise, when it turns up on its stem, it reverses and goes in counterclockwise. And I don't know how that happens, but it happens every time.
Well, if you turn it over, it's going to be going the other way. The weight of the ball sitting on the driven disc makes the whole set go this way around. But once these balls start to turn, they start to pick up on the static edge out here. And then they'll go, and then see they're sitting on this driven disc. So they're going that way. Once they catch up and you start spinning, they're starting to pick up on this outer edge, this tangent edge here.
In your case, Ron, you're just turning conservation of angular momentum. It can't change direction. It's just your point of view changed.
It's just interesting to see it go in the opposite direction when it flips up.
Anyway, I could show what's underneath if you want to see that.
Real quick, we're on the hour.
Oh, okay. I put the balls on the floor because that's where they end up anyway.
this is the part here that you're looking at. You can lift this off. Damn thing. That's what is underneath. So this is a little gear motor. Like I said, I wouldn't sell this. I have no idea how long one of these things lasts. They're not very expensive. That's 50 RPMs. It fits in that square hole there. So
very nice.
It was a wooden disc, but it wouldn't hold a set screw, so I had to make it out of aluminum to make the thing work.
You're so clever.
Anyway, we do have fun.
We do indeed. And we just had fun for another hour here in Lancaster Woodturners Coffee Hour. Thank you all for showing up and participating so heartily today. Good show. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks. And after that, we'll see you all every week.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Take care, John. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.